Hey, welcome back, everybody. Hope everybody had a happy Thanksgiving as we took last week off with our chat with Corey. Here's Chat with Corey, episode 3 for old Dale Earnhardt Sr. Um, Today we'll talk a little college football, talk a little college basketball, talk a little bit of Cincinnati Reds baseball real quick, and then a little bit about the Lane Kiffin situation, and then we always touch base on our local high school sports here in good old Anderson, Indiana, Central Indiana, where high school basketball, used to reign supreme. I'm not so sure about that anymore as football has really gained some ground on us here in the great state of Indiana for high school athletes. So, without any further ado, let's jump right into our first topic. Saturday night, 8 o'clock, Indianapolis, Indiana, Lucas Oil Stadium. The biggest football game in the history of Indiana University football. That's right, the biggest football game in the history of Indiana University football. IU versus Ohio State University Buckeyes for the Big Ten championship in college football. They are ranked number 1 and number 2 in the polls for college football across the country. Both of them will be in the playoffs. I would say right now they have Ohio State as the number 1 team in the college playoff if it were to start today, and IU as the number 2 team. I believe if IU were to win, I think they would be number 1, and I see Ohio State probably being number 2, possibly number 3, in my opinion. I think if IU loses to Ohio State in the Big Ten championship, I don't think they'll be punished too much. I think they'll drop maybe to number 3 from number 2. But those are just some thoughts I have about that. I don't know the exact numbers, but IU and Ohio State are their college football ranks, points allowed per game, points scored per game, yards per game by their opponents are all very similar. I'm hoping points allowed. I think Ohio State is number 1, and I think Indiana University is number 2. As a Hoosier and as an IU fan, I'm hoping that the old number 3 or the number 2 football or points allowed in college football for IU will allow them to compete and give themselves a chance Saturday night. So that'll be on TV. I did look into some tickets. Couldn't score any tickets. The last price I heard of tickets in the nosebleed or maybe even the standing room only were running about $200 a ticket. I would love to be there for that, but I think we'll pass the $200 a ticket for what is not going to be the last game of the season for Indiana University, but could quite possibly be the biggest win in Indiana University football to this point. So that is the Indiana University football talk. It's exciting time the next few weeks for the Hoosiers and Coach Curt Cinetti down there in Bloomington. And so now let's jump on to our other college football team here in the state of Indiana. It's still got a chance, still playing. Notre Dame Fighting Irish. They did drop this week in the projected college football playoff. Alabama winning caused them to drop a little bit. Not so sure what's going to happen. I'm a little worried here for the Fighting Irish and their position in the projected college football playoff. There are a lot of scenarios that would affect them. Right now, I think if Duke would happen to beat Virginia, that is something that we will hear a lot about. If Alabama loses in the SEC championship game, that'll be 3 losses. I think that could be to the benefit of IU. If BYU were to beat Texas Tech in the Big 12 championship, I think that makes things a little difficult for Notre Dame. And so we're just, play that by ear. I think Notre Dame deserves to be in the college football playoffs, and a lot of people are against that. I believe the fact that they lost 2 games by a total of 4 points to 2 teams that were ranked in the top 25, Texas Tech or Texas A&M, and Miami of Florida. Both those teams are in the college football playoff projection, so I'm not sure how you punish a Notre Dame team who lost to both those teams by combined 4 points with a freshman quarterback. And they went on to run the table to finish their regular season at 10-2. So I'm sure all the college football experts are out there listening to this episode of Chat with Corey. So I'd love for them to take a little advice from Chat with Corey, and unless barring some big upsets in Championship Saturday for college football, put the Fighting Irish in the stinking playoff, please. All right. So that is a little bit my thought on that. We did look into the power rankings of college football, and if you look at the power rankings, that's all the analytics involved. They have Notre Dame ranked at number 3, behind Ohio State University and the Fighting Hoosiers, Indiana University Hoosiers. So number 3 power ranking for Notre Dame's got to work into its favor somewhere. And then they call the game control. I mean, they just have so many analytics. I saw the game control analytics, which basically the way it was explained to me is it's the eye test. And when they have the eye test, the Fighting Irish are number 5 behind Ohio State, Texas Tech, Oregon, and IU as well. So once again, college football experts, the playoff committee. If you have any questions, reach out to Corey Scott. Give me a call. I'll tell you what I think, but it'd be hard for me not to see Notre Dame in there. There's a lot of teams that are going to be on the bubble, as we used with March Madness, and there's always going to be teams on the outside looking in. We went from 2 teams to 4 teams to 12 teams. There's talk of 16 teams at some point, but there's always going to be teams on the bubble trying to fight their way in. So I'm not sure how you make that happen. There's always going to be those teams on the bubble. So we'll just see. We got to sit back and watch. People are saying maybe Texas gets in with 3 losses because they've got the most wins versus top 10 teams this year. So, but they've got 3 losses. So to me, those bad losses should outweigh good win or weaker wins should rank higher than bad losses. So Notre Dame doesn't have any bad losses. Obviously, IU sitting at 12-0 for the first time in history doesn't have any bad losses. But you got your Texas Tech's got some losses that you would raise an eyebrow to. University of Miami, Florida has got a couple losses. You would be like, yeah, wow, can't believe they lost to them. So with all that being said, let's just pump the brakes on the projected college football playoff. Go IU this Saturday night. Notre Dame, sit there and get yourself prepared because you will be in a bowl game one way or another. Let's just hope it's as part of the college football playoff. Let's jump into my Indiana Hoosiers men's basketball. See old Coach Knight picture back here. We're working on the backdrop a little bit as we go through some of these chats with Corey, and I dig through the attic and find a lot of my sports memorabilia. Going to fill up the office here and get a lot of nice photos maybe to show on here and have a better background. IU men's basketball loses at Minnesota last night. That is not a good loss. It is not a good loss. IU did not shoot the ball well. They were 40% from the field. They were 30% from the three-point line. They were 60% from the free throw line. So IU did not shoot real well on the road. It is tough to win on the road in the Big Ten. It's tough to win in your conference. Now, albeit we have a new coach and Darren DeVries, and that that is not the same as for this next comment, but a lot of times when you're in your league, in your conference, those teams are more prepared for you. They know how your style of play is, so they know what to expect. I know when we were coaching just at the high school level, I know it's just a high school level, but those teams that we played on a regular basis, there were things that were always going to be on the scouting report from the previous year, as long as the coaching staff was the same and the style of play was the same, mostly when it was the same coaching staff. So when you're in your league, you sometimes compete a little bit better with those people because you have a little bit better understanding. Plus, on the flip side of the scouting report now that Coach DeVries is here in Bloomington, and those teams are those coaches in the Big Ten are paying a little bit more attention to his style, and those teams they're playing as when he was at West Virginia and he was at Drake, they may not have had to pay that much attention to his style, but it is hard to win the league. But I do think, man, that was a tough loss on the road. It's tough to win on the road in the Big Ten. My thoughts on what hurt IU other than the shooting. I've thought all year watching them, now that they're 7-1, watching them play. I've thought, man, their inside play worries me. I don't know how physical they are. I'm not sure I don't think you would consider IU a big team, and I think that hurt them a little bit. Minnesota pounded the ball inside a little bit on offense, and then they also made it very difficult on some of the guards going to the basket, and some of Reed Bailey and those guys playing inside. So I think, man, that is a tough road to hoe when you don't have much size if you're not going to shoot the ball well. So you got to shoot the ball a little bit better. And I know people, that's real smart. That's real smart for a former basketball coach to say you got to shoot the ball better. The ball goes in the basket. If the ball goes in the basket, it sure makes things a lot easier. That your offense then feeds into your defense. Your defense can then feed into your offense, but the ball needs to go in the basket. So those are a couple things that I noticed. They got out rebounded. I think it was 40-25. That's not going to work. That's just not going to work. And so as you go forward and you think about certain things, IU's got to get better rebounding the basketball. They've got to do a better job in the paint, whether it's defensively, whether it's offensively, finishing shots offensively, guarding a little bit better, rebounding a little bit better defensively. So they're really going to have to work on that. Reed Bailey and Tucker DeVries, I just think, a couple times I felt like they got taken advantage of defensively. Now they're very good offensively. I'm 48 years old. I'm not going out and guarding anybody myself, but we got to get a little better in that area, in my opinion. That's my opinion. People may like it. People may hate it. Sorry. It's my opinion, not your opinion. That's what I'm saying. That's what I see with these eyes. I'm not always a big analytic guy, but when I look at it, I look at it with my eyeballs and see where things are. So that's just my little Indiana University talk for the week. Got a big game for basketball. Got a big game on Saturday night or Saturday afternoon in Indianapolis as well. Yes, Saturday afternoon in Indianapolis. IU men's basketball at Bankers Life, and then Saturday night in Indianapolis, Indiana University football at Lucas Oil, and the great Don Fisher will be on the call for both games. I'm not sure that he's ever done that in his career, and I'm not sure that there's many people that have done both a college basketball game on the radio and then turned around and did a college football game on the radio. Don Fisher is a voice of my childhood. He's one of those voices that I've heard over the years that make me think that this podcast was cool, and maybe someday maybe someday I'll stumble into a radio or a streaming job here to help call some games. I think if I'm not going to coach, I think that would be a tremendous experience and just a wonderful time. Okay, that's my plug and my advertisement for myself and the ability to get out there and maybe do some speaking on some media platforms for local high school athletics. Leaving the college basketball. Oh, no, wait. I thought of this, and I wanted to make sure I said this. Yes, it is a bad loss for Indiana University. But I do remember a time under that man right there, Coach Bob Knight, where IU would have some bad losses, but then they would bounce back, get a big win. So I look for a good, strong performance on Saturday afternoon from the Hoosiers versus Louisville. And, I think back to the 93-94 season when IU loses to a unranked Butler University team in Indianapolis, and then they turn around that following weekend and they beat a highly ranked the University of Kentucky Wildcats in the old RCA Dome with Damon Bailey putting up big numbers with 29, along with Brian Evans, Pat Graham, and Alan Henderson with big nights for our Hoosiers against Kentucky back in December of 1993 of the 93-94 season. So not all is lost with IU losing to Minnesota, but they can't have many of those losses because if they're one of those teams that are hovering around that bubble that I was talking about earlier. You want to make sure that you're not a team that has a lot of bad losses. Oh, we talked about that with the college football playoff, didn't we? Don't get those bad losses. You do not want those bad losses. So that is college football. That is college basketball. I'm going to jump into it here on my next segment. Real quick, I've touched on this before, so I'm going to touch on it again. My beloved Cincinnati Reds. Hey, they are in the mix. They are in the mix for Kyle Schwarber. Now, I don't know if they're a big player. But they are in talks with his people, and he is aware that the Reds are interested in him. He's a free agent. Like I said before, he made about $20 million last year, and the Reds only paid about $115 million as a team. So they're going to have to figure out the numbers. The problem being is the Philadelphia Phillies, which is the team he's currently with, the Boston Red Sox, and the New York Mets are three of the teams that are interested in him as well, and they've got really deep pockets. So hopefully the Reds can get in the ballpark of numbers financially of what they could offer him, and maybe he will consider them as a real option. So that is a hope of this Cincinnati Reds fan. Somebody said, well, the Reds are going to need to clean up their relief pitchers and their bullpen. The Reds did sign Emilio Pagan to a 2-year deal to return to the Reds. So that is at times the closer last year, depending on who was out there with him. Maybe he remains the closer. So they do have that relief pitcher coming back. And we'll just go from there. But, man, the Reds need a power hitter. They need another hitter in that lineup to get them to the next level. So that's on the radar. Check out the Hot Stove League and figure out, what the winter talks are going to be all about. And maybe the next month or so, we'll know where Kyle Schwarber ends up. And hopefully it's with the Cincinnati Reds. We're going to jump into the hottest topic in sports right now, in my opinion, and this may be possibly the last topic we go over today. Lane Kiffin was the head football coach at Ole Miss, Mississippi Rebels, college football. They're 11-1. They're going to be in the playoff. He arguably the best season in Ole Miss football history. And LSU, Louisiana State University, comes calling. We talked about this before about how I didn't like coaches being fired in the middle of the season. That's a whole nother tangent. But LSU comes calling. Lane Kiffin coaches his final game in the Egg Bowl versus Mississippi State. They win to finish the season 11-1. We get an announcement on Sunday. I think it was Sunday, early Monday, that he was going to Louisiana State University, causing the big uproar in college football, which is, why would you leave your team when your season has not been completed? He left his job at Ole Miss to become the head coach at Louisiana State University. He asked Ole Miss if he could stay and coach them in the college playoff. Ole Miss said no. Okay, so I'm trying to set that up a little bit before I go through my thoughts and my comments, concerns. Not that anybody cares, because it's just chat with Corey, but I care. I care, and I love to talk sports, and my wife gets tired of hearing it. My boys sometimes are too busy to hear it, so you get the next best thing. It's you. It's you that gets to come through with that. So here's where I start on this. This problem, you can be mad at Lane Kiffin if you want, but this problem is the NCAA's fault. And here's why. The calendar for the NCAA, signing day, transfer portal opens, all those things are going on before the college football championship is played in the middle of December and is completed. So you shouldn't be having high school kids signing their letter of intent. You shouldn't have those types of things going on. The transfer portal where a kid can transfer before the season's over. We've had players in the past who have opted out, not played in bowl games because they were going to transfer. The kid from Penn State last year is one. I don't remember his name. But that is, the NCAA needs to take a hard look at that to see if there's a different way to have their dates aligned. I know it's the calendar. I know it's the school semester. I know all of that. I get that. I do. And I don't know what the exact in and outs are, and I don't get what the exact key points are for how to get kids eligible, how to get kids on campus, how to get kids there so they can be there for spring football when it starts, because the reason they jump into that portal so quick is they want to enroll in school to start a second semester, so they're there for spring football and they can start learning the system. So somewhere along there, the NCAA has got to figure that out. Okay? So that is my first thought on it. My second thought is, don't blame Coach Kiffin. Don't blame Coach Kiffin. Coaches who stay too long, it doesn't always end well. It doesn't always end well. Now, he's going to learn that at LSU, because LSU don't mess around. LSU have fired coaches who have won national championship for them. LSU has fired some very good coaches. They're not going to mess around. So that is the risk that he has taken, leaving a job where you're the guy to go to a place that if you don't win and you don't win big, they don't want anything to do with you. So don't blame him, and don't blame any coach that is going to leave before they get fired. The old saying is there's two types of coaches. Those of us who have been fired and those of us who will be fired. And I understand his mindset, and obviously money is a big part of it. Money is a big part of it, but coaches who stick around too long end up getting fired. I experienced that. I was coaching at my alma mater. I was coaching at Delville High School. We won 2 sectionals. Things fell apart a little bit. We weren't very good. I hung around too long. I got showed the door. They fired me as coach. After we won the first sectional, I had a veteran coach, a friend of a friend, call, try to talk me into going somewhere else. I'm going to stay. I'm going to build it. I'm going to grow with it. We got this. We did. Fortunately, we got to win the second sectional championship. Still didn't get out of the regional, but we had 2 very successful seasons for Delville High School boys basketball. Same coach, veteran coach, friend of a friend, calls me, says, hey, you need to think about this. You need to think about this. Well, that's 2009. 2013 was my last year there. I ended up in a job that maybe didn't have quite the talent pool that I could have had if I would have took advantage of the success, why my name was out there. People could look, because people have short-term memory and they're only going to remember what they want to remember. So him leaving and going for chasing the bigger job, the higher paying job, I don't know if you'd call it a bigger job, it's probably higher paying. The experts say there's better talent in Louisiana than there is in Mississippi out of high school. They're saying you got a better chance to recruit high school players and not have to dip into the transfer portal quite as much, although you will always dip into the transfer portal. So that's a thought. That's a thought. Now we're going to get into some other thoughts I have about it. Don't feel sorry for the players. Don't feel sorry for the players. Everybody's like, well, that player went there to play for the coach. That player did go there to play for the coach. And at the end of the season, or even now, if any of those players want to, they could hit the transfer portal and go play for Lane Kiffin down the road at Louisiana State University instead of Ole Miss. So you cannot feel sorry for the players, in my opinion. The players are getting paid, and that's a whole nother topic. So I'm not feeling sorry for the players. Those players will move on. Don't tell me, oh, their coach, they feel sorry for their coach, they're committed to their coach. Coaches and players, relationships not what it used to be because of the transfer portal, because it's so transient. Players are in and out. Some guys are playing at 3 schools in 4 years. So, well, now you can play 5 years. If you graduate in 4, you can get a 5th year. So some kids, some young men, young women are playing 3, 4 schools maybe in 5 years. So I'm not buying, and they're getting paid to play. I'm not buying that I'm feeling sorry for the players. So don't say you feel sorry for the players. Yeah, he did have a commitment to the players. And he probably talked about loyalty and buy-in and all that. Yeah, I don't agree with that on his part. But I'm not feeling sorry for those players, because those players are getting quite compensated really well. And a lot of those players are making more money playing college football, who are not going to go to the NFL, who will not make that much money doing whatever they do in the real world outside of athletics. Now, I do believe that no coach who leaves his job to go to another job while the school he was coaching at still has their football season going on. Because not only can you be in the college playoff and continue your college football season, some of those schools that are not in the top 12 will be playing in your traditional bowl games around the country. You have to finish your season with a 500 or better record, and you make yourself into a bowl, eligible for a bowl game. We got all kinds of bowl games out there. Didn't used to be that many. I don't think it's right for Lane Kiffin to leave Ole Miss and try to recruit the players from Ole Miss to go to LSU before Ole Miss's season's over. I don't like that. I don't like him recruiting the coaches to come to Louisiana State before Ole Miss's season's over. You can do this a little better than that. You can set up, especially with the coaches, you can set up the agreement to where they don't have to come right now. Let's talk about it. You finish your season. I'll lay the groundwork at LSU. When you boys are done, we'll get together and we'll make it official. as a player, you should want that player to stay there, be successful, have their shot, have their chance to do something really special that they may not be able to do somewhere else. So to me, that's extremely important. Okay, so that's extremely important. And then the next thing I would say is LSU is just as much to blame as Lane Kiffin. LSU could make this happen as well by not poaching the coach, so to speak. If Lane Kiffin's your guy, just stay out of the weeds. Just stay out of the weeds. Maybe have your people talk to his people, which that's going to be leaked. But tell him, you finish your season, then we'll be ready. But transfer portal, National Signing Day for high school kids, people believe that they want to play for certain coaches, which is true to some degree. But that's LSU is not innocent in the whole thing. Ole Miss should not be punished when it comes to the projected college football playoff. Don't be punishing those people. Don't be punishing those people because their coach left. Those players are there. Now, if you have injured players, which they did to Florida State last year, the year before, they had an injured player and they threw him out of the playoff. I don't agree with that, but I understand that a little bit better. Coaches are good. Coaches are great, but games are won by players. So let those players stay there and play. If they've played all year with that coach who left, let them stay there and play and have a chance in the college football playoff. And then the final thing is, if you have not watched the E60 documentary on Lane Kiffin, he's had a lot of stops. He's been fired. He's been let go. He's left places. It makes me look at that documentary in a little bit different light. And that makes me see things just a little bit different than what I did the first time I watched it with him. So that's something to think about as well. So you just never know with these things what's going on. You just never know. So it has been a big deal. It's been the hot topic. Good for Lane Kiffin. Bad for Ole Miss. But Ole Miss needs to go out now and make a run in the college football playoff. Maybe win the national championship, and then they could just throw it in his face. And I will say this, Lane Kiffin, if you don't win a national championship at LSU, you will get yourself fired, which that maybe is not quite the expectation at Ole Miss. But Lane Kiffin, I'm with you, brother. You're going to pay me more money to do the same thing I've been doing and maybe a little bit better resource or the equal resources. I get it. High school basketball, state of Indiana. We'll close up with this real quick. High school basketball, the state of Indiana. Boys and girls are both underway. Trying to figure out a game for me to catch tomorrow. I've seen the Jay County Patriots play. I've seen the Delville Broncos play. I've seen the Liberty Christian Lions and Anderson Indians play. Got a lot of friends still in the coaching game and at different schools. A lot of family out there playing. So I have seen those teams play. I don't know. Anderson beat Liberty Christian. I think Liberty Christian being the 1A school, I think they're going to be really solid. Just give them a little time. They got a couple new faces. Anderson High School is awful young. So we'll see if they can uphold that number 10 in 4A ranking. Jay County loses to Fort Wayne Southside, bounces back, beats Richmond. That's good for them. Delville Broncos started 0-1. They got a couple games this weekend. Hopefully they get things rolling there. Muncie Central Bearcats, I follow them. Good friend over there coaching. They're 2-0. Big win last night versus Guerin Catholic. And then the Delville Lady Broncos, they're 8-1. Don't look now, people, but they may be making a push to have the most wins and program history on the girls' side and maybe make a run at another girls basketball sectional championship. My friend Joe Wrench, and then led by Addie Gothrop, senior, really solid player, all-time leading scorer at Delville High School, just surpassed 1,000 points a couple weeks back. So get out there, check your local high school sports out. Maybe even your small college. You got a couple friends who have kids playing at the small college level on the men's and women's side. Maybe catch a game there. Myself, I love the holiday season. Happy Thanksgiving a week late. Merry Christmas, as it'll be here before we know it. But get out there, support your local high school athletics, support your small colleges, and even, I know I said I'm not paying $200 to go to Indianapolis, but even get out there and support your large college athletics. And finally, I'll leave you with this, as I do every week, and I hope to be back next week with a couple new topics for you. But remember this, if you can find something you enjoy to do, who cares what anybody else says? Get out there, find something you enjoy to do, spend some time doing it, whether it's sports, otherwise. I don't have to like it. You have to like it. So get out there and do that. All right, everybody. We'll see you next week. See ya.